I should have known better. The signs had been there for months. Whispered phone calls, the sudden need for privacy, the way Emily angled her phone away whenever I walked by. But I ignored them, convincing myself that after 4 years together, she wouldn't do something like this. That illusion shattered on a cold Thursday night. Emily was in the shower, steam curling out from under the bathroom door. Her phone sat on the nightstand, buzzing every few seconds. I never considered myself the jealous type, but something about it didn't sit right. I hesitated for half a second before picking it up. "Jason, last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again." A sharp chill ran through my body. My fingers tightened around the phone as I scrolled up. "Emily, I swear, he has no clue. It's almost too easy." I felt sick. My mind raced as I kept reading, each message cutting deeper. The timestamps were recent, too recent. She had been sneaking around behind my back while still sleeping in my bed, pretending nothing had changed. The shower shut off. Footsteps on the tile. The bathroom door creaked open. Emily walked out wrapped in a towel, rubbing her hair dry. Her eyes flicked to her phone in my hand. She froze. Then, without missing a beat, she let out a sharp laugh. "Are you seriously going through my messages? Wow, Jake, that's insane." I stared at her, my entire body rigid. "Who's Jason?" She rolled her eyes, stepping closer. "He's just a friend. You're making a big deal out of nothing." I turned the screen toward her. "Then explain this." She glanced at the messages, her expression unchanging. And then, like clockwork, she sighed and shook her head. "You're overreacting. You always do this. That's why I never tell you anything. You get so possessive." A slow burn started in my chest. "I get possessive? Emily, you're literally cheating on me." She snorted, grabbing her phone from my hand. "You're delusional, Jake. You read into everything way too much. This is why you push people away. You make up problems that don't exist." "Unbelievable. You're actually trying to gaslight me." My voice was eerily calm. "I'm staring at the proof." She scoffed, scrolling through the texts, then smirked. "Wow, you really went through the whole conversation. That's kind of creepy, don't you think?" My fingers curled into fists. "I can't believe this." She shrugged, unbothered. "I can't believe you. You're making a fool of yourself." That was the moment I knew. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't going to apologize. In her mind, she had already rewritten the story. I was the crazy, paranoid boyfriend, and she was the misunderstood victim. No remorse. No shame. Just arrogance. That's when I decided. If she wanted to make me the bad guy, I'd make sure she regretted it. I didn't argue with her that night. There was no point. Emily had already convinced herself that she was untouchable, that no matter what she did, she could twist the narrative and make herself look like the victim. And maybe, if I had been anyone else, it would have worked. But she underestimated me. She thought I'd break down, beg, or lash out. She thought I'd leave quietly, letting her paint me as the crazy ex to her friends. No, I wasn't going to just walk away. I was going to make sure she paid for every lie, every betrayal, and every ounce of arrogance she had thrown in my face. And I knew exactly how to do it. Emily had always cared about appearances. She was one of those people who thrived on social validation, always hosting parties, keeping up a carefully curated friend group, and making sure everyone thought she was perfect. That was her weakness. The first thing I did was back up everything. I transferred her texts with Jason to my computer, taking screenshots of the worst ones. I also recorded a voice memo of our argument, her dismissing my accusations, laughing at me, and calling me crazy. But that wasn't enough. If I wanted to destroy her reputation completely, I needed something more, something she couldn't explain away. So I created it. I had never been a tech genius, but I knew enough to manipulate a few things. I created a new email address, one that looked eerily similar to Emily's. Then, I used an email spoofing tool to make it look like she had been emailing Jason for weeks. I carefully crafted a chain of messages between Emily and Jason. In them, she admitted to cheating. She mocked her friends, calling them boring and predictable. She bragged about how easy it was to manipulate people, claiming she could make them believe whatever she wanted. Every email felt like something she would actually say, I made sure of it. Then, for the final touch, I added a fake email where Emily trashed her best friend Lauren. Lauren was Emily's closest confidant, but she was also the most insecure. I knew that if she even suspected Emily was talking behind her back, their friendship would be over. And once Lauren turned against her, the rest would follow. I waited until a Friday night. Emily was out with her friends, completely unaware of what I had set in motion. I sent the email chain to her entire friend group. The subject line, "You all deserve to know the truth." Then I sat back and waited. The first sign that my plan had worked came at midnight. Emily stormed into the apartment, her face pale and eyes wild. Her phone was clutched tightly in her shaking hands. "What the hell did you do?" she screamed. I raised an eyebrow. "What are you talking about?" She shoved her phone in my face. The group chat with her friends was exploding. "Lauren, WTF, Emily? Sophie, is this real? Please tell me this isn't real. Mark, you seriously talked about us like this behind our backs? Unbelievable. Lauren, I defended you so many times. I feel sick." Emily's hands were trembling. "You sent this. I know you sent this." I leaned back in my chair, calm. "I don't know what you mean." Her nostrils flared. "You faked those emails." I tilted my head. "So you didn't cheat on me?" She hesitated. Just for a second. I smiled. "Because if I remember correctly, you said I was crazy for even suggesting it." Her face twisted with fury. "This is different. You made it look like I was trashing my friends. That's not the same as." I cut her off. "So you admit it?" Her mouth snapped shut. She was cornered, and she knew it. I stood up, stepping closer. "You called me crazy, Emily. You laughed in my face. You made me the villain. But guess what?" I leaned in. "Now you're the villain, and no one believes you." Her breathing was ragged, her chest rising and falling in short, sharp bursts. I could almost see the wheels turning in her head, trying to figure out how to spin this, how to fix it. But she couldn't. Her friends were gone. Her reputation was in shambles. And the best part? She had done it all to herself. Emily had always been the center of attention, the one who controlled the narrative. But now, she was spiraling. After that night, she locked herself in our bedroom, frantically messaging her friends, trying to salvage what was left. I didn't have to look to know what they were saying. It was already too late. Lauren had been the first to turn on her, and once that happened, the rest followed like dominoes. Her friends were livid, not just because of the fake emails I had sent, but because deep down, they believed them. Emily had spent years manipulating people, talking behind their backs, playing the innocent victim whenever it suited her. She had built her friendships on lies. And now the lies had collapsed. I sat on the couch, listening to the muffled sound of her arguing over the phone. "No, that's not what happened, Lauren. I swear to God." Silence. Then, suddenly, "Are you serious? You're actually choosing them over me?" A long pause. And then, Emily let out a choked sob. It was working. I turned on the TV, letting her stew in the fallout. By Monday, Emily had completely unraveled. She had barely left the bedroom all weekend. The apartment was littered with crumpled tissues. Her eyes were swollen from crying, and she had called in sick to work. I had never seen her like this, but I didn't feel bad. Not after what she did to me. That morning, as I poured myself a cup of coffee, Emily finally emerged from the room. She looked like hell, messy hair, oversized hoodie, her usual confidence completely gone. She hesitated in the kitchen doorway, staring at me like she was seeing a stranger. "Jake." Her voice was quiet, almost uncertain. I didn't answer. I just took a sip of my coffee. She swallowed hard. "You need to tell them the truth." I raised an eyebrow. "The truth?" She nodded quickly. "Tell them you faked it, that you made everything up. I know you did, and—" Her voice cracked. "I can't lose everyone over this." I stared at her for a moment, then slowly set my coffee down. "You know what's funny, Emily?" My voice was calm, almost amused. Her brows furrowed. "What?" I leaned forward. "When I confronted you about cheating, you called me crazy." Her lips parted slightly. "Jake, that's not—" I cut her off. "You humiliated me. You made me question my own reality. You gaslit me, and you laughed while you did it." She sucked in a breath, but I wasn't finished. "And now," I smirked, "now you know exactly how that feels." Her bottom lip trembled. "This is different. You lied." "So did you," I shot back. "The difference is, when I lied, people believed me." Emily's entire body tensed. She looked so small now, so powerless. Over the next few days, I watched her world crumble. Her group chat had gone silent. No more invites, no more late-night calls. Her friends had completely cut her off. Lauren, who had once been her closest friend, had blocked her on everything. The betrayal was too much. Even her work relationships started to suffer. Emily worked in PR, where connections were everything. But now, she was radioactive. The people she once relied on professionally were distancing themselves, afraid of the drama. She tried damage control, of course. She posted a long-winded Instagram story, claiming she was being targeted by false accusations and that real friends would know the truth. It backfired spectacularly. The comments were brutal. "Lauren, just take accountability for once in your life." "Mark, nobody believes you. Move on." "Sophie, you did this to yourself." She deleted the post within an hour. That night, as she sat curled up on the couch, staring blankly at her phone, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. By the end of the week, Emily finally cracked. I came home late from work, and she was waiting for me in the kitchen. She looked different, defeated. "We need to talk," she murmured. I sighed, setting down my keys. "About what?" She took a shaky breath. "I know things can't go back to the way they were, but I can't do this anymore." I stayed silent, letting her continue. She swallowed. "I'll move out. I need some time to figure things out." There was something in her voice, something I hadn't heard in a long time. Regret. But it was too late for that. "Take as much time as you need," I said flatly. Her eyes flickered with something, maybe hope, maybe relief. She gave me a small nod before turning away. For the first time since this all started, Emily had stopped fighting. She knew she had lost. 3 days later, she packed her bags and left. No dramatic farewell. No parting words. Just silence. As I stood in the doorway, watching her disappear down the hallway, I felt something strange. Not anger. Not satisfaction. Just peace. Emily had tried to make me the villain. She had tried to rewrite the story, to make me doubt myself, to paint me as the one who was crazy. But in the end, I had rewritten the story first. And now it was over. For good. The silence after Emily left was deafening. For the first time in years, there were no passive-aggressive sighs from the other room, no whispered phone calls at odd hours, no tension lingering in the air like a storm waiting to break. The apartment, once a battlefield, now felt like unfamiliar territory. I had spent so long consumed by her betrayal, planning, executing, watching it all unfold, that I hadn't thought about what came after. Now, with Emily gone and her reputation in shambles, I had won. But the question lingered, what now? Standing in the middle of what was once our apartment, I looked around and realized something. This place wasn't hers anymore. It wasn't even ours. It was mine, and it was time to reclaim it. The first thing I did was erase every trace of her existence from my home. I started with the small things, the framed pictures on the shelves, the old letters she had written me on birthdays and anniversaries, the little gifts she had given me over the years. Each one carried a memory, a reminder of who she had once pretended to be. Gone. Her clothes still lingered in the closet, her scent woven into the fabric. I yanked them down in armfuls, stuffing them into garbage bags. The sight of them made my skin crawl. I left them outside by the door with a simple text. "Your stuff is outside. Pick it up by tomorrow, or it's gone." No response. The bedroom was next. The space that had once felt warm and intimate now felt tainted. I stripped the sheets, threw out the pillows she used, and sprayed the air with something, anything, to get rid of the scent of her perfume that still clung to the walls. Then, for the final touch, I changed the locks. Not because I thought she would come back. She wouldn't dare, but because I needed to. This wasn't just about moving on. It was about taking back control. With Emily gone, I had more free time than I knew what to do with. It was strange. For so long, my life had revolved around her, her needs, her schedule, her social games. Now, for the first time, I had the space to figure out who I was without her. So I started small. I reconnected with old friends, the ones Emily had subtly pushed away over the years. I texted them, met up for drinks, let myself laugh without the weight of her expectations pressing down on me. Then, I hit the gym harder than I ever had before. I channeled all the anger, all the frustration, into something productive. The more I pushed myself, the more I felt the weight of Emily's betrayal lifting. But it wasn't just about fixing my body. It was about fixing my mind. I stopped checking her social media. I stopped wondering what she was doing, who she was with, whether she was trying to fix her mess or sink further into it. She wasn't my problem anymore. And that realization, it was freeing. Weeks passed. Emily was gone, her reputation shattered beyond repair. I had moved on, or at least, I thought I had. Then, one evening, I ran into her. It was at a coffee shop, one I had never seen her visit before. I had just placed my order when I heard someone say my name. Jake. I turned. Emily stood there, gripping a cup of coffee with both hands. She looked different, not in a dramatic way, but in the subtle ways only someone who had known her for years would notice. Her usual perfect makeup was gone. Her hair, once styled flawlessly, was pulled into a messy ponytail. There were faint dark circles under her eyes. She looked tired. We stared at each other for a long moment before she forced a small, nervous smile. I wasn't expecting to see you here. I shrugged. It's a small city. She shifted on her feet, glancing at her coffee. How have you been? The question caught me off guard. How had I been? Better, stronger, free. But I wasn't about to give her the satisfaction of knowing that. Good, I said simply. And you? Her fingers tightened around her cup. I've been better. She didn't elaborate, and I didn't ask. Another awkward silence stretched between us before she finally took a deep breath and spoke again. Jake, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I stared at her, searching for any sign of manipulation. For the first time, I found none. She wasn't trying to win me back. She wasn't trying to spin a new story. She was just broken. And part of me, the part that had loved her once, almost felt bad. Almost. I appreciate that, I said, my voice even. She hesitated. I know it doesn't change anything, but I wanted you to know. I nodded, letting the silence settle. Then, she let out a weak laugh. I guess I'll see you around. I held her gaze for a moment before giving the smallest of smirks. Take care, Emily. And just like that, she turned and walked away. I watched her disappear into the crowd, waiting for something, anything, to hit me. But there was nothing. No anger. No regret. No lingering sadness. Just peace. I had won. Not because I destroyed her life, but because I had finally, truly moved on. And that was the best revenge of all. The weeks that followed my run-in with Emily felt like stepping into an entirely new life. For the first time in years, I wasn't living in someone else's shadow, reacting to someone else's lies. I was free to make my own choices, live my own life, without the weight of betrayal pressing down on me. And it felt good. I thought about Emily less and less. The anger that had fueled me during my revenge had burned out, replaced by something steadier. A sense of clarity. A realization that life wasn't just about what had happened, but about what came next. And what came next was entirely up to me. Emily had always been the social one, the popular one, the one who had carefully maintained an image of perfection in front of others. But when I exposed her, that image had shattered. And the irony, while she had spent years trying to paint me as the crazy, overprotective boyfriend, I was the one who walked away with my reputation intact. Her friends, ex-friends, now, had started reaching out to me. Not just Lauren, but others who had once seen me as nothing more than Emily's boyfriend. Lauren texted first. Lauren, hey, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I should have seen it sooner. You didn't deserve that. I stared at the message for a long moment before replying. Me, it's all in the past now. No hard feelings. And I meant it. One by one, others followed. Some wanted to reconnect. Some just wanted to apologize. And some, though they never admitted it outright, wanted to hear my side of the story. I wasn't interested in rehashing the past, but the fact that they had turned their backs on her instead of me, that was enough. It wasn't just her social life that had crumbled. Her work connections suffered, too. Emily had built a career on being likable, on networking, on knowing the right people. But after everything, the people she relied on started keeping their distance. No one wanted to be associated with a liar. A few weeks after our run-in at the cafe, I heard through the grapevine that she had left her job. Whether she quit or was quietly pushed out, I didn't know. And honestly, I didn't care. She had built her life on manipulation, on half-truths, on making people believe what she wanted them to believe. But now, with no one left to trust her, she had nothing. And that was a fate worse than any revenge I could have planned. With Emily fading into the background, my life started taking shape in ways I hadn't expected. I focused on myself, on the things I wanted, for the first time in years. I took up new hobbies. I traveled. I pushed myself harder at work. And eventually, I started dating again. At first, it was casual. I wasn't looking for anything serious. But the more time passed, the more I realized something. I wasn't afraid anymore. Emily had tried to break me, to make me question myself, to make me doubt my worth. But in the end, she had only made me stronger. Months passed. Then one night, out of nowhere, I got a text. Emily, I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I wanted to say I really am sorry. For everything. I stared at the screen, unreadable. Part of me had expected this. Eventually, after enough time had passed, she would reach out, maybe looking for closure, maybe hoping to rewrite history. But I didn't need closure. I already had it. I typed out my response. I appreciate the apology, but there's nothing left to say. Take care, Emily. Then I blocked her number. Not out of anger, but because I truly, finally, didn't care anymore. One evening, I sat on my apartment balcony, looking out over the city. A city that, for the first time, felt full of possibilities instead of memories. My phone buzzed with a message. Lauren, we're getting drinks tonight. You in? I smiled, typing back. Absolutely. Because I wasn't the guy who had been cheated on anymore. I wasn't the guy seeking revenge, or the guy proving a point. I was just me. And that was enough. Time has a strange way of softening things. In the months after Emily's downfall, I found myself thinking about her less and less. At first, it was a conscious effort, pushing away the memories, forcing myself to focus on the present instead of replaying old conversations and betrayals in my mind. But eventually, it just happened. She became a distant chapter in my life, a cautionary tale rather than an open wound. And for the first time in years, I felt at peace. But closure, as I would soon learn, has a way of finding you when you least expect it. It had been nearly a year since Emily walked out of my apartment for the last time. By then, my life had completely transformed. I had moved into a new place, one that wasn't haunted by old memories. I had built stronger friendships, rekindled old connections, and finally felt like myself again. And to my own surprise, I was in a new relationship. Her name was Anna. We had met through mutual friends, and what started as something casual turned into something real. She was everything Emily wasn't: honest, kind, emotionally mature. She made me laugh, and she listened. For the first time, I was with someone who didn't play mind games. Life was good. So when I saw Emily again, completely by accident, it caught me off guard. It was a random Tuesday afternoon. I had stopped by a bookstore downtown, browsing mindlessly while waiting for Anna to finish work so we could grab dinner. And then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw her. Emily. She was standing near the entrance, talking to someone. But even from a distance, I could tell something was different. She looked thinner. Not in a healthy way, but in the way someone looks when they've been carrying too much stress. Her clothes were simple, nothing like the fashionable, curated outfits she used to obsess over. But it was her eyes that struck me the most. They weren't sharp anymore. They weren't filled with that smug confidence, the arrogance she had once wielded like a weapon. They looked lost. For a moment, I considered walking away, pretending I hadn't seen her. She wasn't a part of my life anymore. I didn't owe her anything. But before I could make a decision, she turned, and her eyes landed on me. Emily froze, her mouth parting slightly in shock. I waited, bracing myself for whatever was about to come. Would she ignore me? Walk away? Try to spin another story? Instead, she did something I never expected. She approached me. "Jake," she said softly. Hearing my name in her voice felt strange, like a sound from a different lifetime. I nodded once. "Emily." She hesitated, glancing down at her hands, as if trying to decide what to say. Then, finally, she met my gaze. "You look good," she said. I studied her for a moment before replying. "Thanks. You look different." She let out a quiet, humorless chuckle. "Yeah, life has a way of changing things." I didn't respond. She shifted her weight, glancing around before lowering her voice. I know you probably don't want to hear this, but I just wanted to say I really am sorry. For everything." She had apologized once before, in that brief text she sent months ago. But this time, it felt real. She wasn't just saying it because she had to. She was saying it because she had nothing left to lose. I nodded slowly. "I know." She blinked, looking surprised. "You do." "I've known for a while," I said. "I just didn't need to hear it." She swallowed, nodding slowly, as if letting that sink in. Another pause stretched between us. Then, with a small, almost sad smile, she whispered, "You really moved on, didn't you?" I didn't hesitate. "Yes." She exhaled, looking down at the floor. "Good." There was something final in her voice, something that told me she had finally accepted what she had lost. She looked back up at me, opening her mouth as if she wanted to say something else. But then, she stopped herself. Instead, she just gave me a small nod. "Take care, Jake." And with that, she turned and walked away. I watched her go, waiting for some kind of emotion to hit me. Anger, sadness, regret. But there was nothing. Nothing except a quiet, unshakable truth. I had won. Not in the way I had imagined. Not through revenge or destruction, but by letting go. And for the first time in my life, I realized that was the best closure I could have ever asked for. There's something freeing about realizing you've truly moved on. Not just in the way people say they have when they're still secretly checking their ex's social media at 2 a.m. Not in the way they pretend to be over someone while carrying bitterness in their chest, but in the real, honest way, where you can look back at everything that happened and feel absolutely nothing. That's where I was. After my run-in with Emily at the bookstore, I expected some kind of emotional aftershock. Maybe an old memory resurfacing, a fleeting moment of doubt, something. But it never came. Instead, life continued. And for the first time in years, it was mine. For months, Emily had been a presence in my life, even after she was physically gone. Her name still popped up in conversations. Her betrayal still lingered in the back of my mind. And a part of me, if I was being honest, had held onto the satisfaction of knowing I had destroyed her carefully constructed world. But after seeing her like that, lost, defeated, alone, I realized I didn't need that satisfaction anymore. Emily wasn't some looming villain in my story. She was just a person, a flawed, broken person who had made terrible choices and was now living with the consequences. And me, I was free. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I erased her completely. I deleted our old photos, wiped her number from my phone, and cleared out any lingering messages or emails. Not out of anger, not because I needed to prove a point, but because I simply didn't care anymore. And that was the final step in moving on. With Emily in the past, my focus shifted entirely to the future. My career was thriving. My friendships had never been stronger. And Anna, well, Anna was something I hadn't even realized I needed. She was kind in ways Emily never was. She didn't play games. She didn't twist words or manipulate emotions. She was real. And for the first time in my life, I understood what a healthy relationship was supposed to feel like. One night, as we sat on my couch, sharing a pizza and laughing over some ridiculous movie, she looked at me with a soft expression. "You ever think about the past?" she asked. I knew what she was really asking. I thought about it for a moment before shaking my head. "Not anymore." She smiled, lacing her fingers through mine. "Good." And I meant it. I wasn't haunted by the past. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't waiting for another moment of revenge. I was just happy. Months passed. Then one day, I got a message. Not from Emily, but from Lauren. Lauren, you won't believe what I just heard. I smirked, shaking my head. Did I even want to know? Me, what is it? Her response came almost immediately. Lauren, Emily is leaving town. Apparently, she's starting over somewhere new. No one really talks to her anymore. She burned too many bridges. I stared at the message for a moment. Then slowly I smiled. Emily had spent years manipulating people, twisting the truth, making herself the victim in every situation. And now, she had no one left to believe her lies. She had lost everything. The poetic justice of it all didn't escape me. But the difference between me then and me now, I didn't need that victory to feel whole anymore. Me wish her luck, I guess. Lauren sent back a laughing emoji. Lauren, you're a better person than me. Maybe. Or maybe I had just finally outgrown the past. Life went on. Emily disappeared from my world entirely, and I never looked back. I focused on the things that mattered, the people who had stood by me, the career I was building, the relationship I was in. And somewhere along the way, I stopped thinking about revenge. Stopped thinking about the pain she had caused, the lies she had told, the way she had tried to gaslight me into believing I was crazy. Because none of it mattered anymore. I had won. Not because I had destroyed her. Not because I had exposed her. But because I had healed. And in the end, that was the best revenge of all.